Shocking. New Morrison government analysis has revealed the astounding cost of any ban on new coal and gas projects in Queensland, with 66 projects in the state at risk, at the cost of billions of dollars and tens of thousands of jobs. Now, where did that story run, do you think? It ran in the Murdoch tabloids. We're reading from the Courier Mail. It is shocking, just shocking, that any newspaper, any self-respecting media outlet would publish this sort of unadulterated rubbish. Government analysis? That has to be code for public relations. How did this happen? Was it a lobby group? Was it the Queensland Resources Council or the Minerals Council of Australia that just bowled this up to the Prime Minister's office and said, here you go, there's your government analysis. Now just give it to the Smurfs and the Chipmunks. They'll lap it up. And so they did. Front page, splash. Shocking. Just shocking. And so this is the reason, precisely the reason why we're sending Callum Foote, our young gun reporter, to Canberra, to the press gallery, to cover federal politics heading into the election. You need somebody down there that is going to not swallow this kind of nonsense coming through the government via the Minerals Council. I mean, Callum busted Deloitte for a $20 billion inflation of the amount that fossil fuel companies deliver to the Australian economy, $20 billion, and they could not argue, Deloitte, that their figures were correct. But now the government's taking it one step further. They're not even bothering to hire Deloitte. They're just taking it straight from resources lobby groups. This shocking analysis is claiming that 53,000 jobs are at risk. This is Queensland alone. Are there even 53,000 mining jobs in Queensland? There are only 271,000 mining jobs, according to the ABS, the Bureau of Statistics, in the whole of the country. That's roughly the same as Woolies and Coles, because, of course, mining is capital intensive, and there are very few jobs for the size of the money involved for the output, the export value. Worse, the income goes offshore. Now, if, as the Murdoch press is claiming, or the government and the Minerals Council are claiming, if there are 66 projects at risk, then why does the IEA and other international agencies with a reputation to uphold, why do they put the number of new fossil fuel projects at 50 across the whole country? The point is, there should be no new fossil fuel projects. That's what the science says. That's what the international agencies say. Yet we are in an absolute coal rush. We're in a gas rush. All this stuff in the Murdoch tabloids is pure fantasy. The truth is that this government is in a rush to approve every single fossil fuel project it can. Bear in mind that these large fossil fuel companies, the coal and gas companies, donate to the major parties. And so this is the quid pro quo. They are appeasing their donors in fossil fuels, particularly gas, who are the biggest donors, to squeeze every last drop of revenue they can at gross expense to the planet before the party ends, before it's all over. So there were drops to Guardian Australia and the AFR this morning, basically wrecking environmental protections to appease the resources lobby, lowering the bar, speeding up the process for approving mining projects. It's very convenient that there's a war going on, that the government and the media are peddling fear about a war going on in Europe, trying to conflate China and Russia as mates. It's called the Ark of Autocracy. That's what the government's called it. It's a failed moniker, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare the living hell out of us. And meanwhile, they're sneaking through all these projects, 50 new projects, or 66 according to the Courier Mail. Now, the hypocrisy is so egregious here because they're crying sanctions, sanctions. Well, we've got a question into Peter Dutton's office at the moment. He's one of the warmongers in chief. The question is, what are you doing about Glencore, Australia's biggest coal miner? The Swiss-based and London-based Glencore has got a terrible record over its history of busting sanctions, and they're doing it again. This from Bloomberg's Javier Blas. Glencore remains active in the Russian oil market. We've also got this propaganda line running in the Australian and other Murdoch media from people like Judith Sloan and Terry McCrann that we have to ramp up fossil fuel sales to Europe. The fact is, if we moved quickly to renewable energy, every country would not have to rely as much on gas and coal, even Russia, Ukraine. But the fact is, we're a big fossil fuel exporting country, and the major players are big donors, and their lobby groups are relentless. They have a number of people inside the Prime Minister's office, in the PMO. Now, all this epic fear-mongering really just exploits the plight of the people suffering in the Ukraine, and it exploits the fears of the public at home. It plays directly into the government hands. Every day we see it. Threats, 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 fear, fear, fear. All distractions from a government which has failed on the economy, which has failed on defence, which has just failed on the floods, which has failed in its stewardship of our most frail, elderly Australians living in nursing homes. It's failed miserably on women, on social security robo-debt, on the pandemic, epic fail on climate. It's failed to take the advice of experts, of independent experts, of scientists, and it's now leading by fear and distraction, leading with the help of its propaganda machine, Murdoch and other mainstream media. Now, even if you were a conservative voter, even if you're a believer in free markets, this has naught to do with free markets. This is about crony capitalism and clinging to power. Just look at the greatest transfer of wealth from ordinary people to wealthy corporations, 40 billion in JobKeeper. That's not free markets. That's free money for coalition donors. It's time to bundle this mob out. It's time for a change. They are completely incompetent and they are corrupt as well.